Tonight, we're diving into a story out of a remote Algerian village. This isn't just some campfire tale, it's a first-hand account, one so disturbing it was apparently documented by local authorities. This is presented as a true case file of absolute horror. And the story comes directly from the man who lived it, a farmer named Khalid. Right off the bat, he wants you to know he wasn't a believer. He was a skeptic who laughed at stories of Jinn and spirits. But, as he says, one night was all it took to change everything. So it's really important to get this straight. What we're about to go through isn't being sold as fiction. The whole thing is framed as a documented testimony, supposedly from a police record in eastern Algeria, sometime in the late 90s. We're hearing it all from the man who was there. You know, the worst nights of our lives, they never really announce themselves, do they? For Khalid, this absolute nightmare began with something that sounded almost simple. Just a strange, deeply unsettling request from his neighbor. Okay, so let's set the scene. Our guy, Khalid, is a farmer in his 30s. He lives a pretty quiet life, alone out near the forest. One evening, his neighbor, a man named Hajrabe, comes to see him. And this guy, Hajrabe, he's known by everyone as this deeply religious, respected man, which makes what's about to happen so much more shocking. So Hajrabe hits him with this bombshell. His daughter has died, and her dying wish was to be buried at night. He needed a strong man to help. I mean, how do you say no to a grieving father? Khalid agrees, having no idea that this is just the first of many, many bizarre and disturbing things to come. Red flag number 1. The time and place. A burial in the dead of night, deep in the woods, nowhere near the village cemetery. Yeah, this wasn't traditional. This was something else. Something secret. And it just gets weirder. When Khalid gets to the house, the girl's body is all wrapped up in a white shroud. The family is adamant. Nobody is allowed to see her face. They say it's to protect her from the evil eye, but, you know, that just made the whole situation feel even more mysterious. Then comes the moment that changes everything. As they're lowering her body into the grave, Khalid's hand accidentally brushes against hers, and he just freezes. Her skin was cold, sure, but it wasn't stiff. There was no rigor mortis. Her hand was flexible, pliable, almost like she was just asleep. And that single terrifying detail, it would haunt him forever. So Khalid goes back to his house, totally alone, the feeling of that girl's hand just seared into his brain. He must have been thinking, okay, that was horrible, but it's over. He was so wrong. The real terror was just about to start. It's 3 a.m. He's back home, in total silence. And then it begins. A soft knock on his door. He checks. Nobody's there. Then he hears a woman sobbing, but the sound is coming from inside his bedroom. He backs away and sees wet footprints just appearing out of thin air on the floor, leading from the front door. And just as he's processing this, boom, the lights go out. Total darkness. I mean, what do you even do in that moment? Your mind starts to race, right? You start to wonder if this is even real. Was it the stress of the night? The guilt from that awful burial? Is he just losing his mind? But then, a whisper cuts through that pitch-black silence. A whisper that confirms his deepest, most horrifying fear. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. The very next day, a completely broken Hajrabe shows up and confesses the unbelievable truth. His daughter wasn't dead. She was alive, maybe in a coma, unconscious, but alive. He said they, a mysterious group he never actually names, they insisted she be buried. And in that one moment, this stops being a ghost story. It becomes a story about a murder. So Khalid is being tormented, right? Night after night, he sees visions of the girl just standing at the foot of his bed. He's pushed to his absolute breaking point. He knows he can't live like this. He has to know the truth. He has to go back. Completely unhinged by these nightly visits, Khalid grabs a shovel and heads back to that spot in the forest. All alone, under the moonlight, he starts digging, unearthing that same coffin. His heart is just pounding in his chest as he pries open the lid, reaches inside, and prepares to tear open the burial shroud. But there's no body. He feels around and there's nothing. The coffin is completely empty. Whatever he thought he was going to find, it definitely wasn't this. All that's in there is a single folded piece of cloth. And on that piece of cloth is a message, scrawled in what looks like dried blood. It's both a desperate plea and a terrifying warning. Save me, or save yourself. What does that even mean? Did she write this somehow before she got out, or did something else leave it there for him to find?
You'd think finding an empty grave and a bloody message would be the climax of the story. But no, the horror wasn't over. In fact, that discovery was just the beginning of a tragic fallout that would destroy everyone involved. The aftermath was just devastating. Haj Rabe, just eaten alive by guilt, was found dead. He had hanged himself using his own daughter's burial shroud. And Khalid, well, he survived physically, but his life was over. He was left with deep, permanent psychological trauma. And this right here, this is from Khalid's final testimony. It's just a heartbreaking summary of what his life became. He's trapped. He's living in a nightmare he can never wake up from, haunted by the girl he helped put in the ground. He says he hasn't had a real night's sleep in 2 decades. Over time, the raw personal pain of Khalid and Haj Rabe's story began to fade, as these things do. But the story itself, it didn't. It kind of seeped into the local folklore. It became a legend. What's wild is that there are supposedly still traces of this story out there today, things that blur that line between fact and fiction. They say the official testimony is still in the police files somewhere. Khalid's house, now a ruin, is still standing. And the locals, they whisper that if you're brave enough to spend the night there, you can still hear a woman crying from somewhere deep beneath the earth. It all leads to this one final, chilling thought. The account of the girl who wasn't buried is more than just a tragic tale. The source material kind of suggests that some stories, they never really get buried. They become a part of the place where they happened, just waiting. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are they just stories, or are they histories we could one day find ourselves living in?